Hello, everyone. It's Thursday night and it's ARW Weekly. Um, Not much to go on this week because we've put a lot of content out. We've covered a lot of stuff. It's been a quiet enough day today, thank God, transfer wise, giving us a bit of a break. But look, I've gathered a couple of lads together because there's still a bit to talk about. And Keith is with me, Jonathan is with me, Matt has gone off drinking. Um, you know, 1 week on, 1 week off. He's on a pro rata thing, I think. But look, we brought along a new contributor this week, and it's Phil. So, Phil, how are things? How are you?
All good, mate. Very, very good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. You're glad now. Give it about 40
Give it
minutes and we'll
time.
see how you get
Come
on.
back in half an hour, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, how
Are
are
we
you,
off
man?
drinking this week?
Mate, I'm very well, all jiggy in London. You know what I mean? Spirits are high, weather's shit, but happy to be here as always, baby.
Good stuff. Washing all them shorts for the following week, I hear.
You damn right. Tumble drying in the summer.
Yeah,
Posh.
too much money you have. Them tumbled wears cost a fortune, and you know it. Jonathan, how are you, my man?
I'm good. Delighted to be here as always.
Yeah, we're just sick of seeing each other now
Yeah,
at this
like
stage, yeah?
we're just the family, the family that you're only supposed to see once a year, and it's just we've already run out of those awkward conversations. You heard you all day just trying to get an agenda together.
I didn't even put an agenda together. I got someone else to do it. So if this goes badly wrong, you can blame everybody else belonging
Just want
to
some
ARW.
football again, don't we?
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I can't wait for Saturday. Right, we're going to start off with a little bit of fun and a question that was given to me by a friend of mine, actually. So it's similar to last week's one when Grizz ended up on safari and all sorts of stuff went on last week. It was ridiculous. But this week, you're in court. You're up on a charge. Pick whatever charge you want. It doesn't bother me. And you need to bring two of the Anfield Road Wolves with you to be your counsel to basically defend you in court. Who do you think would get you off? Keith, I'll go to you first. Who would you bring with you?
That's a good one. I think I'd bring Matt because he's got a bit of a gift of the gab. He likes to talk. He'd probably talk his way straight through it and take everyone for a beer afterwards. And with his Dubai connections, I'm sure he'll have a few connects while he's out there. So he'd be pretty handy for some bribery as well. And then, second, I'll take Jonathan, man. You know what I mean? Jonathan, it just looks like, how could he not be telling the truth? Look at his face. You know what I mean?
That's a man.
That is a man who could lie to me and tell me that, water is not wet. And I'll be like, Jonathan, I believe you, baby. So he's definitely got the face that would get me off on all accounts. So that's the two I'm choosing.
Don't worry, keep the checks in the post there.
All right, yeah, no, I know where you're going with Matt, but the chances will Matt will turn up drunk. Matt would be like something else. If you remember My Cousin Vinny, when the film and the cousin turns up, Matt would be something like that, but just a drunk version. Phil, I'll come to you next. Who are you bringing with you to defend you?
Do you know what? I've got two very different ones here, so I'm going left field. I'd go for Gav, definitely. I reckon you'd do me a favour. You'd save my life. Probably because you've been through a few bevies with the judge, so I'd be all right because you'd know who they were. So just give him a bit of a wink and a nudge and tell him you'll buy him a pint and I'll get off. My other choice is, in case that fails, I'm bringing Grizz with me because anyone that hires Grizz can plead insanity and get away with a fine.
Yeah, but the only problem there is Grizz is going to turn up and he's not going to realise where he is after about 15 minutes. And he's probably sitting there with a packet of custard creams and a big bag of boiled sweets.
Yeah,
and he's wondering why the film hasn't started yet.
That's even better. Do you know what I mean? If he turns up to court as my counsel and he's sat with popcorn half asleep in the chair, I think I'm going to be all right.
Yeah, I think you're insane. Bringing me is one, but definitely bringing him. Jonathan, who are you going with?
Well, I like to firstly say this wasn't pre-rehearsed, so we're going to sound like buddies here back and forth. But the first one I pick on the list is Keith.
My man.
He has a bit of, he just has that charm and swagger. He'll just talk the arse off the donkey there as well. He'll have all these shirts nicely tumble drived and everything.
Crisp short, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He'll just like Better Call Saul all gone wrong. He'll just have that sharpness to him. So we'll look the part in, and then for a completely contrast, I drag along Grizz simply because he'd have all the inside information on everyone else, and his mate might be able to stand beside the fax machine just to make sure nothing comes back and forth. So we can filter it both ways. So between the two of them, I think that'll cover every angle there.
Oh God, just two people to pick Grizz. This is ridiculous. Like, to be very honest with you.
Just for the record, Grizz can come along. Like, you weren't there, Gav, but at the Middlesbrough game, the last game of the season, Grizz turns up. We meet him for the first time. He's a bright pair of red trainers on and kamikaze, army kamikaze shorts and trackies. So it's like there's the contrast. You just see him in the court, just tucking into a bowl of Special K or something like that, just munching away there, and that's quite the sight.
Yeah, I actually did see a picture of him, and he was in the back of a car. And there was three of his mates in the car, and I sent him a picture going, Jesus Christ, you're that much in camouflage. I can't actually see you in that car. But
that must be his dad's car, was it?
No, it wasn't his dad's car. It was his friend's dad's car.
Okay.
His friend is named driver on his dad's car as well, just much like Grizz. Yeah, no, there's no way in fucking hell I'm bringing Grizz anywhere near the courtroom. So I'd go with Craig, and I'll tell you why I go with Craig, right? Not for his argumentative skills, but Craig is an absolute, talk about detail and stick up for detail, it's untrue. He would just bug the shit out of everyone in the courtroom. He'd want to know why pictures aren't straight. He'd want to know why people aren't sitting up straight. He'd want to know why stuff isn't centered. And in the end, they'd just say, listen, fuck off out with court. The two are annoying me now. So definitely bring Craig. And the second one I would bring, I'd probably bring Nats, because Nats is one of the nicest people you'll meet, but boy Jesus, she's scary as well.
That's a good point.
She's not
straight
big,
to the point, shall we say?
Yeah, she's not big in stature or anything. She's quite soft spoken when she's speaking, but when she talks in not an aggressive manner, but with any sort of confidence, you kind of stand back and you listen. So Craig and Nats, and sure, Grizz will probably hang around outside, waiting for some sort of news off it, and he can pass it off as his own, like he's doing at the minute with everything else. That's just a cheap dig. I didn't mean that. No,
you might need to go to court after all these digs. Grizz will do you for.
Grizz isn't bringing me to court. You're mad. Forget to arrive anyway. But look, no, fairness, no, decent picks there, and we move on now. We're going on to serious stuff now, lads. Just to let you know. Again, I was speaking to a friend of mine today, a Man United fan, believe it or not, and he was speaking about Steven Gerrard, and he just asked me a question. He just asked me a question, and when he asked me, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to ask the lads this tonight. Steven Gerrard is now the manager / head coach, or whatever the title is he's given, of the under-18s at Liverpool. And what I got thinking was, probably a bit of an obvious question, but what does he bring to the role? Where does he see it, like, bringing him in the future? Is it up the rungs of the ladder at Liverpool, or maybe go off somewhere else and get experience and hope to come back to Liverpool? And overall, do you think he's going to be a success? Phil, I'll come to you first on that one.
Yeah, so I think it's a good question, because it's that debate of, just because he was a great player, does that mean he can be a great manager? We can all think of managers who either were pretty crappy in their playing days, but are half decent managers. He's a bit of an ass, but Mourinho being one of them, for example, and Klopp, actually. Klopp wasn't exactly a world class player either. But then you can also think of the likes of Maradona, who shouldn't be anywhere near a football team ever again from a coaching perspective. So it's difficult, isn't it? But I think Stevie's got it about him, particularly at Liverpool, because his passion comes through. So I think one of the main things he brings to the youngsters, having worked around football academies, I can tell you there's a lot of egos in those places. And as a 17, 18-year-old kid, it's going to be pretty hard to have a big ego with Steven Gerrard as your manager. Especially playing for Liverpool, he'll smack you back into line, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. His passion is for Liverpool, and he's seen it all. He's gone through so many different managers, so many different styles and tactics. He's seen a hell of a lot, and he's benefited, I suppose, from the likes of Houllier, Benitez, even Rodgers. and he probably would have loved to play under Klopp, but it's probably the second best thing now. He's part of the system there. Jonathan, when you look at Gerrard and you look at how he's doing it, his commitment can't be faulted. I've watched a little bit of how he's getting on, little updates here and there, and I think they were flying to Australia for a Legends game, or he may have been flying with the first team. It may have been the first team, when they brought a couple of legends with them to Australia at the end of the season, and a couple of the players remarked that he literally spent the flight to Australia on his laptop,
Yeah, he took the words
looking through players and looking through tactics and stuff. So he's definitely committed, and as Phil said, if he puts as much effort into this as he put into his playing career, you can see him really being a big success, not only at Liverpool, but wherever he goes on to be a first team manager, of an actual club, being a manager of an actual entire club.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head there with that trip. I was just actually going to bring it up. I think it was Carragher at the time. They were going out to that game in Australia, and he spent his time preparing the schedule for the following season, the whole schedule from top to bottom. So, yeah, like he's not like a lot of players go into management and they simply think all they have to do is put on a suit and wave their hands around and then that's it. You see a lot of former players, big players, that struggle in management. They don't make that crossover. I've been reading a good bit about him on the role since he took it over, and the biggest thing that I like is he's bringing, like, considering players that come through going through the academy system and the underage systems, they're pretty much spoiled fancy dance. They've everything's thrown at them. They've money thrown at them. They have every sort of attraction. It's a huge amount of egos. The good thing about Gerrard is he can tell, he can go to one of these guys and look, you've done nothing. Like, he just has that aura around him that nobody can disagree with him, or nobody can match him. And I admire his style of coaching that he likes to he's trying to implement. It's very similar to Klopp's, as in it's based on, like it was on his playing career, passion, aggression, winning that tackle. There was a very interesting quote with him, I think, in one of the articles when he took over the coaching role. He said, "I don't care about a player doing 10 lollipops or 10 Cruyff turns in a row. That's pointless. He just needs to, have that aggression and that raw skill." And it's pretty much the Gegenpressing that Klopp likes to implement in his football. So that really is key at that age as well, that you can, like, all the players that are in the underage system are going to be insanely talented. They wouldn't have got there if they weren't. But the big step that is the missing step from falling away in the footballing ladder to making the breakthrough to Premiership football is that aggression and that determination to win. And I think there's nobody better than Stevie to implement that through. It was interesting the choice of the teams that he took over. I read a lot that he had a lot of discussions with Klopp, and they felt that under 18 was the perfect age group for him, that he could, he was that perfect stepping stone for both parties, really. And, like, if you're a young guy at Melwood and you just see Stevie there and you see all the little clips of him just smashing, joining in the little games and smashing balls around, like, is there a bigger incentive for you to make that breakthrough than seeing him? Like, he would have been ideal to a lot of the players. So, yeah, all the signs are positive, and let's hope, because it'll be great for both parties if it's successful.
Yeah, it will be. Keith, I look at the way Liverpool are doing things now, and they've actually limited, from what I can see, they've limited the finances of what an under 18 player can be paid to a certain amount now. There's none of this, like you see the likes of Chelsea doing, and there's 20 grand a week, and they've actually limited to a certain amount. I think it's something, I'm not even going to give you a figure because I know I'll be wrong, but there's definitely limited wages there. And as Jonathan said, the 18s is probably perfect for him because he's that one more step removed from the first team. If he was in the 23s, you'd probably see him, if anything goes wrong, the usual, give Gerrard the job, much like United have done for the last 4 years when, if they hit a corner, they're telling people to give Giggsy the fucking job. He's perfect for me because any player in there looking at him has to look and go, this fella has done exactly the same route as I'm trying to do. Exactly. from a young man or young boy to a young man and trying to grow into a grown man and be playing for Liverpool. But do you think that influence over them players can be really beneficial as literally just telling them, I've been there before, I know exactly what you're going through?
Absolutely. You know, Stephen, we're lucky that we have a player of that type of stature that's still associated with the club. You know, there's a lot of clubs that, you know, can potentially lose these type of players, but you have to put him in the same breath that you put Zinedine Zidane at Real Madrid as a perfect example. You know, this is an upper echelon character, a man who's won things, a man who's tactically astute, he's played in a number of different positions in the pitch himself, and he grew to be one of the best centre midfielders in world football. And I think when the kids look at him as an inspiration to what they could potentially achieve, they're looking at a Champions League winner. They're looking at a player who was, you know, Liverpool's all-time greatest footballer. So he has that edge and that influence over the kids. And for a lot of them, they would have been, you know, maybe they would have been young enough to be they would have been young enough to have Steven Gerrard as the type of player that would have made them fall in love with the game. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? You know, when we were younger, when we first kind of discover football, our heroes, the first kind of guys you see on the TV, we want to be like him. We want to take shots from 20, 35 yards out like him. You know, a lot of the players that are currently going to be under that system would have wanted to be Steven Gerrard. And so having that type of influence on the kids is huge. It's going to be interesting whether he can accommodate that with a kind of a tactical astuteness, because unlike someone like Zidane, he's not going to get the opportunity to deal with multi-million pound, the best of the best. Do you understand what I mean? So even with the under 18s, with the salary limits, he's going to only be able to get a certain type of youth play. He's not going to be able to get the types of that the other big clubs are going to be able to pay them up front. So he's going to have to be smarter in his decisions on who he brings into the club and smarter on who he believes can make it into the next team. But that type of education is going to be perfect for when he gets into the first team anyway, because that's Liverpool at this current moment in time. We're not an upper echelon to the point where we can just spend millions and millions of pounds anytime we need wing backs, for example. So he's getting the perfect coaching, and in turn, I think he's bringing he's bringing a fantastic influence over to those kids. It's a great thing to have him around the club.
Yeah, it looks to me like it's beneficial for all parties. You know, even a couple of you there have mentioned Jurgen Klopp. I think Jurgen Klopp would be delighted having someone like Steven Gerrard around the club. Just the high standards Gerrard holds for himself and everyone around him. You know, like if you look at Gerrard's autobiography, he had no problem telling you if a player wasn't good enough, because he had the highest standards, and if you didn't reach them, you weren't good enough. It's as simple, and he wasn't wrong on many of them.
And
Carmel had. Sorry, Stephen.
No, I was just about to say, I think it's testament to Klopp as a stature of his manager and of his superior influence on the game compared to, say, the likes of Rodgers. No disrespect to Rodgers, but Rodgers would never have allowed Gerrard back in the underage because he would have felt he was always one step away from him. Whereas
that's an insecurity thing.
Yeah. Whereas Klopp just welcomes him back in open arms, and I think it's kind of just an example of the kind of the improvement all around the club.
Well, if the stories are true as well, sorry to interrupt, if the stories are true, you've hit the nail on the head there, because it sounds like Rodgers had something to do with, even if not everything to do with, Stevie leaving in the first place to go stateside, which was an insane decision. I still can't believe that we actually let Steven Gerrard walk away from the club for any length of time. But if he wasn't even happy with his captain being sat on the bench behind him, he was hardly going to want him in his backroom staff, was he?
Yeah, well, I'd go one step further. Klopp would never have allowed Gerrard to leave for America.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, but you see, what Klopp would have probably done was he would have said, look, can you be some sort of player coach with me for a year?
Yep.
And then I'll go and make you the 18s and that transition. And he could have literally walked him through what he wanted. And over the space of that year, while he's still probably playing around the first team, he would have walked him through what he wanted at the 18s. But look, Klopp now has a player that's up there as one of the best players that Liverpool have ever seen. He holds an amazingly high standard for himself and everyone around him. You have under 18s players that look up to this player and think, if I put in the effort that this player or this man demands, I can go where he's been. So all round, I think it's a really good thing for the club, and you never know, you might see him step up a little bit as the years go on.
And you know what?
You never know where it might bring him. Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
I'd say add one thing. I think the fact that he was guided by Rafa Benitez in his kind of peak years, I think that's going to be an excellent training curve for him, because they didn't have the close bond relationship, did they? It was never kind of he always felt he was quite cold, and that type of cold-hearted love, in a sense, when it was just purely business and it's purely tactics, would have rubbed off so well on Steven Gerrard and how he has his relationships with the players. Because of course maybe he will be a little bit more forthcoming, but by taking on the tactics that someone like Benitez would have drilled into him, and to deliver it in such a way that it is purely football business, it can be a bit of a difference, and could be something that Liverpool could benefit from in the future, in a less emotional style of managerial kind of style than Jurgen Klopp. What would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, no, you see, the way I'm trying to look at Gerrard as a complete overview as to A, why he's there, B, what he can bring, C, what he might go on to do at Liverpool. But I think you might actually see him, and like you said, even though he didn't get on with Benitez, he probably benefits most from Benitez's methods. You know, he sees Gerrard Houllier as like a father figure to him, but when someone's a father figure to you can kind of be a little blinded by what they're doing. Whereas, as you said, when he's a bit cold with Benitez, he's actually a lot more concentrated on what Benitez is actually doing, and will probably benefit from that more. But overall, I think if you look at Gerrard, it just fits, and the reason it fits is he's straight off the back of his career. He can't sit still. You know, by the fella, he can't sit still, so he had to go and do something. And Liverpool were absolutely spot on to bring him back. And if it was me, I'd probably see him going 18s, 23s. But all this stuff of, Liverpool manager, I'd put that way in the distance. I'd like to see him go off and maybe do, maybe a championship stroke lower end Premier League team, if he can get a job like that, and see what he can get on with, because you have to experience everything in football. Like you said, he's experienced young lads now that earn little money, not multimillionaires like Zidane was. But look, he started off well. He seems dedicated, and all you can do is wish him the best. But the amount of attention the 18s are going to get this year is going to be unbelievable, just because Gerrard's there. No, literally, it really is. Like, it's everyone's going to be watching. Not only Liverpool fans, I think everybody's going to be watching. Keith, I'll let you back in there. I think you have another point to make before we move on.
Yeah, just a question to all the lads, actually. I'm right in saying that Zidane, before he became manager of Real Madrid, managed Real Madrid B teams. That's right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So in terms of development of coaches, would you say that it's an argument that was brought out by Rafa Benitez a while ago, but do you feel like the B teams, aka the under-23 teams, should actually get the opportunity to potentially play? If they were given the opportunity to play at lower level clubs, it would allow Steven Gerrard to still get the best of both worlds. And
I've always thought we should do that. I mean,
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Spain do that really well, and admittedly, it got a bit weird for a couple of seasons because Barcelona B kept winning the league but couldn't get promoted for obvious reasons. And for a club of that size, even their B team was pretty strong because it was pretty much stars that couldn't get into the first team. But no, I think that'd be a wonderful idea. I think maybe, that at the end of the day, they're still kids and they've got to learn their lessons. You don't want them, losing hurts. So if you put them too high up and they start getting crushed by adults who are much more experienced, it's just going to damage their confidence and cause problems in the long run. But I think if you were to add let's say the reserve sides or the under-23 sides to say League 2, I think that would be an awesome play. Possibly even League 1, but definitely League 2 would be a good place for them to gain some experience. It would also stop us having to loan so many players out to gain that experience, because they'd have had competitive league football in their younger days before they've even got to the first team, which is often the thing that's lacking from them. It's that match intelligence. They know how to train, they know how to play well, but they've not actually been in that many decent level, league level competitive games. So they haven't quite developed yet.
My only argument against that is, like we talk about dropping under 23 teams into League 1 and League 2. League 1 and League 2 already have 24 teams, so where do you put the teams you're replacing? Do you up the amount of teams in the league? Do because let's be honest, them boys are playing 46 league games a season as it is.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
actually, you run the risk of injuring your players even further then as well, don't you? Because if you add in 4 or 6 more games, it won't be 5, would it?
Yeah.
But you add 4
just-
or 6 more games, then it's going to cause an issue.
But it would be a bit.
they have tried this though with was it the Johnson's Paint Trophy or one of those? They literally added in under 23 teams, and they don't know. I don't know what way they could do it. 23 as league can be a bit hit and miss because, like you said, you have players of a certain standard meeting players of a certain standard that are all being coached fairly similarly. I know what you were saying. If you put them into against League One, League Two teams, you know, you're getting that different style of play, different attitudes from teams, different stadiums with actual people in them. But it's something that has to be looked at. But I'm not too sure about adding them into League One and Two. You could probably bring some sort of cup competition around. But you see, the argument you'll get against that is that, oh, this is just the big clubs wanting to service themselves by, putting down the smaller teams and moving in on them. I think if you put a big load of prize money up, and if for argument's sake, if the Premier League said, okay, your 20 teams are going to go into this competition, but you're all going to pay £1 million each to enter. Now the winners and now there's a 20 million pot there for lower league clubs to get, because they get pittance in TV money. They want an FA Cup draw, or they want a decent run in the League Cup to get. But look, it's something that definitely will be looked at because it's ongoing at the moment. I think leagues, the Football League, are actually voting on these things all the time with regards to letting under 23s teams into different competitions. But look, at the moment we can just look at Gerrard and see how he gets on, and we all wish him the best. There's no doubt about that. But look, something similar I wanted to move on to, and that's the academies in football. And look, we're watching Twitter and we're watching all sorts of social media all the time, and the amount of money that's in the game is just going up and up and up, and it just seems any figure you pluck out of your head, it starts to look reasonable for players, and any wages you pluck out off the top of your head is starting to look reasonable for players. So I just thought, the academies, are they more important than ever to produce talent so you don't have to spend this money? Or is it a case of the academies are kind of only important for these teams that aren't getting the mega bucks of the Premier League, etc.? Jonathan, do you think the academies are there and they are worthwhile nearly? Are they worthwhile because the amount of players that are actually turning into these top stars? How many players do you see go right through academy, right to the very top without a couple of actual moves? But they're definitely, in my opinion, important for smaller clubs to unearth someone and sell them onto a bigger club for a few quid that could literally look after your club for a year or two.
I'd go even further. I'd argue they're important for all clubs, small or big. You only have to know. We spoke about Stevie there earlier. He's one of the biggest examples. Like, one of the best players came right through our academy. You look back at some of the best players we've had over the years: Stevie, Carragher. I have to mention the Ambassador, Owen, Fowler, Maka, to name but a few. Some of the best players we've had have come right through the system, because it's that, especially if you can get a local kid or someone in the academy early, they get a bit of pride, and they have a lot more cravings for that jersey. It means a hell of a lot more because they're driven. They've worked so hard at this to come through. So there's two aspects of it. It's the huge financial saving that you have, but also, like, if you get your academy right, and I think we're kind of slowly leaning towards it. Barcelona do it very good. If you can get in an ideal world, if you can get your academy coached with the same philosophy from your under sixes all the way through to your first team. So if you're all embedded in the same football philosophy, the same style of play, same systems, that transition from underage academy to the first team is just so much more smoother. You can obviously, you save yourself a fortune, but you don't have buying a big name player and then go, oh no, we play this particular way, and then you have to kind of mold them in. So if you can like build that kind of clone player the whole way through, that's a hugely beneficial. And like, you'd look at the financial side then as well, like the savings to be made are colossal. And you even look at players that come through that might necessarily make the first team, but might fall off after maybe being on the fringes of the team for a while, and then after a year or two you sell them on to a mid to bottom Premiership team. You look at like United used to make an absolute killing out of their academy. Like I remember, even when the market wasn't that high, you'd like the likes of Fraser Campbell, like Sutherland. He seems to snap them all their players up. They would sell like I remember the likes of Fraser Campbell's going for like 7-10 million. Like, and you're making a lot of money back there. So yeah, absolutely. Academies are key, and I think you will. I think the good thing about Klopp is as well that the whole movement now, if we're going to move to the new training ground, so everyone's together, it's that whole community kind of collective team spirit that's going to embed it, that can only be good for the club.
Yeah, no, fair point. You'd love to see more and more players coming through them systems, and not just, not getting close to the fourth team and getting sold onto a team further down the division and maybe making the name and then going on. You want to see someone come right through and be the best.
Fans can automatically have that, feel more of an attachment with those players, like they often said about Carragher or Gerrard's or whatever. Like they're the ones that we felt closest to, and that can only, like when you have that, it's that whole team spirit on and off the pitch can only be good.
Yeah, because when you come through an academy and all the way into the first team, it's as if you know the club a lot better than anyone that arrives in for big money. You understand it a lot quicker. Phil, when it comes to academies, look, there's no doubt about it. You get players in academies that they progress. They either make it to the first team, they may get 10, 20 appearances in the first team. They may end up on the fringes and move on, make a good career for themselves. But do you still think that the academies can produce players now that can go right to the top? And I don't mean just into the first team, I mean right to the top. Because if you look at the players that are around now, even like pick the 5 players that are being linked around the world today, they're big money moves, and it's the second or third move in their career. It's not all the way up from an academy into the fourth team and then getting a mega move.
Yeah, so I'm probably a bit biased because I worked in football academies for a few years. So I lived in Hungary for a number of years and was responsible for a couple of football academies there. So very different to the Prem in terms of the amount of money and the players that you had. An interesting point you made before, actually, when you were talking, was that you might want to sell a player on to fuel the funds of the club for a particular period of time. The funny thing was, having worked in those academies, that there is an element to that, but only certain players. So what we used to do is our top maybe 4 or 5 players, we deliberately wouldn't play them in games that we knew scouts were attending because we didn't want them seen. But if we had players that we didn't actually mind letting go, we would put them in the shop window, so to speak, and say, look how good they are. So there is an element of that, but there's also an element of hiding, and that probably leads on to your question quite nicely, which is I think a lot of clubs, they can't hide their best players these days anymore. It's not, there's no such thing as a player that hits the first team and suddenly everybody goes, where did he come from? Because we've known about him for the last 2 or 3 years, even if we've known about them from the youth leagues. So I think it's difficult to imagine a player going all the way from the academy right through to doing a Stevie, for example, captaining your team. I think the only way that I can see that happening, and Stevie, I would even go so far as to say that if it was in today and Stevie was in the academy today, he would still be Liverpool captain when he grows up. And the reason I'd say that is because of his passion. Nothing could tempt him away. He was going nowhere. He was a red, but he's a dying breed. Kyle Walker's Spurs till he die. 50 million, he's now at Man City. Gareth Bale loves his clubs, every club. I mean, Robbie Keane loves every club he's ever signed for.
He's had a lot of dreams, to be fair, hasn't he?
Yeah, he always dreamt of playing for LA Galaxy or whoever it was, and they didn't exist when he was a child. So it's stuff like that. But there's too much money in the game. So in that respect, players will be tempted away. Clubs will be tempted to sell their best players. And it's about time. It's about not giving them the time they need to mature. But I'd like to think that the odd 1 or 2 will fall through the cracks, like a Stevie, like a Carragher. But I don't think it's going to be the norm by any stretch of imagination.
No, you're probably right. And Keith, I'm going to give you the last word on this. When it comes to these academies, what's a good success rate for academies? Like I'm looking at should they be bringing, if it's a cycle, say from 18 to 21, so it's a 3-year cycle. How many players should be making the first team? Realistically, how many? To prove the academy is actually successful, should it be 1 or 2? Should it be 4 or 5? Or is it just a case of we've produced 10 players over these 3 years and we've made X amount of money. Is that what it's all about now?
To be honest, I think it's become that. I think academies have become farms for Premier Leagues to slap their name on, slap the club's name on the player's name and then just sell them for 10, 15 million pounds. I think in that respect, academies will probably are going to make Premier League clubs money in the background these days. I think it's going to be less about finding your next talent and more about kind of keeping a certain level of income coming through from the academy. Absolutely no question about that. In terms of producing talent that can kind of go on to shine, I think it works too. I think for finding someone, a young, hungry player straight from the streets of Liverpool who's going to grow up to be kind of Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, Robbie Fowler, those type of local lads, they are rare. We've been fortunate enough to see quite a few in such a short number of time. But the reality is, I believe that it's quite rare to find, that type of talent consistently. I think a lot of the times what you'll find is that we'll poach someone at the age of kind of 13, 14, 15. And I think that's key. It's poaching those type of Raheem Sterlings, for example, Jordan Ibe, Shea Ojos, these type of players who we find them young, we pick them up as quickly as we can. We give them all the facilities, because everybody has world-class facilities these days. Give them all the training that they need and then make a call with them after that. And I think that's where success should be generated. It should be generated on what we can identify at youth level, how we develop them into players and then ultimately it's whether they're good enough or not to handle the pressure of playing for Liverpool Football Club. For playing for such a big club. So, sometimes some will rise and some will fall.
I think money is really a really interesting point on that as well, just on that note. So money comes into this. I mean, if you take sports out of this for a second, that's a really good investment. Those academy players are a good investment. For business-wise, it makes sense. You buy a player for X, you sell them for Y, and you make a profit on it. So ultimately, as a transaction, provided they haven't had more spent on training and treatment than they have for the eaten into the profit margin, that's a decent deal. But I think that's many clubs, particularly at Liverpool, that's a problem that a lot of fans face when thinking about the club, is that our owners and the people in the background think of us as a business because we are a business. The fans think of us as what's best on the pitch. And they are not always the same thing.
Yeah, but to be honest, do you know, the only thing that would worry me about that is it seems to me that no matter what Liverpool do sometimes, and I'm not talking about the owners exclusively, I'm talking about the club as a whole, no matter what they do sometimes, there's always people giving out. So could you imagine Liverpool turning around and saying, no, we're not going to sign Virgil van Dijk. We have brought this lad through since he's 15, he's 21 now, and we've all the faith in him. There will be absolute uproar.
Yeah, there would, yeah.
And, but then again, if this player came through and he was in the team and we brought in some, journeyman defender, and put him in instead of him, there'll be absolute uproar. So you can't win sometimes,
A prime example of that is our fans as well. So this is a hilarious one. I was at the pre-season game a couple of weeks ago. I was at I think it was either the Wigan or Tranmere game. I went to both and they were 2 days apart, so they kind of blurred into one. But Flanagan kept making mistakes. Loads of mistakes. And the fans gave him about 10 minutes before everybody around me was going, sell him. He's not the same since his injury. Sell him. Now, if you remember, before we loaned him out to Burnley, we were chuffed with Flano. He had one really good season where you just thought, you know what, he should be in the first team. He's rivaling it. We loved the fact there was one of our own on the team sheet, and we loved it. But even with that passion for the local lads and being pleased that he's coming through, he has a bad injury. It's now giving him a wobble, and suddenly a lot of our fan base are ready for throwing him a towel and selling him, and we'd want to replace him with somebody high profile that cost a fortune, preferably some lad from Brazil we've never heard of, but we're spending 60 million, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's it exactly, and it's all about balance. And like you said, if you can get a balance of talent coming through that does hit the first team and may go on to make 150 appearances for Liverpool, and balance that with talent that comes through that just doesn't quite make it. You think they might, and they don't, but you look, you've built a reputation to the point where you make that money back and a few quid more. I think that's the balance you can kind of get. But look, we'll move on from it because we could probably go on all night about academies and stuff like that. But we've only a few more things to talk about. But before I do, I just want to give out a shout out to a young lad that's been helping us recently. His name is Connor, and he's working on all our new logos for our new shows, Twitter banners, YouTube banners. He's a star. I think he's a young lad. He's about 18, but he's a serious talent. If anyone wants to see his work or get in contact with him to have some work done, if you go to @designs by Connor, that's @designs by Connor. He'll look after you. He's superb. This lad, he really is. You literally give him an idea, and 5 minutes later, he has something back to you, and it's usually absolutely spot on. So I just wanted to say that as we move on through the show. The next thing, we're probably going to end a few bits of fun because I'm just not arsed talking about serious stuff anymore. That's being honest. So the next thing is, in your opinion, the best value signing from a Premier League team this summer so far.
Ooh.
And look, do you know what? I'll go outside the Premier League if you want to go Championship or anywhere. You pick the best value signing. I'll let you go anywhere so it widens that scope because I put you on the spot a little bit. So, Keith, king of fantasy football, who have you got for me?
Oh, that was a good one. Value signing.
It's not Kyle Walker, anyways.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If I was to be a bit edgy, a bit unique, I'd go with I thought Will Hughes, if I'm not mistaken. Has Will Hughes been signed for £10 million?
He's gone from Derby to Watford, yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. Very intrigued. Very, very intrigued. £10 million. At one point, that was the price tag that was being discussed a few years ago. Mind, £10 million. So he
was linked with us.
He was
heavily linked with us.
Yeah, that was a big. So I reckon £10 million could be quite a snip especially for a team that's been looking for his type of qualities. Watford have missed a player that can unlock defences, that can kind of play in between the lines and be a bit more shifty. They've just been relying on just brute force for the past 2 years. You know what I mean? So it'd be nice to actually see them have a bit of something about them. Yeah, I'm going to go with Will Hughes.
Yeah, that's a really good show. An uncle of mine is a Derby County fan. I went over to watch them with him, and Will Hughes is a really, really good player. Very intelligent. Wins the ball back very well for someone that doesn't look the most mobile in the world, but wins the ball back, nicks in and gets it. Really good, intelligent player. So, yeah, it's not a bad show. It might be one to watch. Jonathan, you're looking all nervous there. You look like you're Googling players, so I'm going to you next.
No, it's a bit right field, but best
left
value
field,
signing. Left field, right field. This could be either. But best value signing is the signing Bournemouth made. Jermaine Defoe on a free transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear in mind the style of football Bournemouth play. Now I know he's pushing on a bit, but he still has that bit of sharp. He still looks sharp. Now, in all fairness, Sutherland were absolutely muck last season, but he still looked a class above. I think with the style of football they play, he's going to get a lot of opportunities, and that boy can finish. I think he could score a lot of goals for them this season. You just bear in mind he's just going to be hovering around the box there, and there's going to be a lot of tippy-tappy football played around him, and I think he'll get a lot of opportunities, and definitely one to look out for the fantasy football as well.
Yeah, it's a good shout as well. He is getting on. I think he's about 35 or 6 now, is he? Jermaine Defoe. He, to me, it feels like he's about 55 because he's around us for years and years. I remember him scoring. I think he broke Bournemouth's scoring record, didn't he, when he was on loan from West Ham a long time ago for goals in consecutive games. That's how old I am.
Yeah, I remember breaking through.
I think it might have been. He broke through at West Ham, but he was on loan at Bournemouth, and I think he scored in something like 11 consecutive games. It was a record at the time in whatever league he was playing in. But no, good shout. Phil, you're next. The boys have stuck to the Premier League, but you can go wherever you want with it.
I'm going to stick to the Prem as well, but I'm trying to decide between two, so I'll probably just give you them both and then let the lads decide which one's best. One of them is maybe an honourable mention. So I'm quite excited about Andy Robertson. He's a full international. We picked him up for, if the rumours are to be believed, between 7 and 8 million. It's probably going to raise with add-ons, but for a young lad who's got Premier League experience, who's an international left back to be picked up for that kind of money in this day and age. Bearing in mind, Kyle Walker is just south of the board and has gone for 50 million. I think that could be a bit of a steal. I mean, I might end up having this podcast sent back to me later in the season when it turns out he's an absolute donkey.
You will.
But we'll see.
Definitely.
We'll see. I might regret these words. The honourable mention is probably, and you know what, given that he's an ex-Manc, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm quite pleased to see Chicharito, Javier Hernandez, back in the Premier League, and for 15 million as well for West Ham. I think that's a good deal as well, particularly with the price of strikers in this day and age. I always liked him. He is that traditional poacher. Now, I've watched him a little bit in Germany as well, and he's actually developed his game a fair bit since then as well, so he can actually do something other than stand in the 4-yard box and just and tap him in. But you think about us a few seasons ago, we were desperate for that player. We were desperate for a player who was in that box. We were always whipping crosses across the keeper, and there was never anybody there to put it in. I'd have bit your hand off for a Chicharito style player. So for a club that has a lot of height and are clearly used to putting crosses into the box, to have a neat little finisher like Chicharito, I think 15 million could end up looking like a bit of a steal for them.
Yeah, no, it could. I have him written down here. That was my choice as well. But I refuse to call him Chicharito or Little P or anything like that. His name is Javier Hernandez.
Somebody spoke about West Ham last night, didn't they?
Somebody spoke about West Ham last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You've nailed yourself to that mast. Best of luck with that. Considering none of their fans can see them fucking playing football because they're that far away.
They're gonna be sponsored by Binocular.
Yeah,
now.
But Hernandez was my shout as well because I think United might have regretted letting him go, and he's done really well in Germany, and he's coming back to a team that, look, if you put him up front with Andy Carroll to knob balls down, he'd have a great time. He'd have a really, really good time. It's just keeping Carroll on the pitch. But no, some really great shouts there. Some intriguing ones as well. Will Hughes is one I thought of. Jermaine Defoe, I didn't think of him either, to be perfectly honest with you. He's gone under the radar a little bit with that signing. And Hernandez is definitely one to watch. But the only worry you'd have for Hernandez is West Ham are mad. They're a crazy club, so you never know what way they're going to go.
It'd be alright, really good. United could always buy him back for 90 million if he has a good season. Yeah,
that's true as well. And then tell everyone that, you're spending too much money. Why are you spending too much money?
Yeah, exactly.
So they could do something like that. But no, look, 3 good shouts. I genuinely was going to go for Hernandez, so I haven't even got anybody else in my head. So yeah, we'll keep an eye with them, and we'll watch them throughout the season. And I'm sure Keith will have us all up to date on all the points for the fantasy football and stuff like that, because he's absolutely obsessed with it. I think actually when he's picking his team in fantasy football, he puts on a suit every Thursday.
Puts on one of the shirts.
That's unconfirmed reports.
Sorry, just to say, do you know how deep my fantasy football addiction's got? So we've got a league at work, a draft fantasy football league. So and it's a face-off. So we play each other each week, and we've got about 15 teams in there. And I've dedicated every Thursday to a newsletter that will go out to all the players, informing them on who's got the most points, who's got who was the kind of team of the week, who was the player of the week, etc., etc. So who knows? I might have one for ARW as well. We'll talk behind the scenes. Absolutely. I think a newsletter would be pretty cool.
Well, the thing is, if you need to photocopy that newsletter, if you just get on to Grizz's mate, he's right beside the photocopier, and he's also he can fax it back to you. So we don't spend any. We don't spend any expense here at ARW, and then Grizz will give you a shout out. But look, last thing, lads, again, just jogging your memory for funny things, to be honest. The funniest red card or own goal you've ever seen. Okay? Look, if you have one of each, walk away. We can go around the table a couple of times if you like. But Keith, the funniest red card or the funniest own goal you've ever seen?
So the funniest red card that cracks me up to this day is Paolo Di Canio pushing over the referee. The funniest thing. It's just
it was the fall from the ref as well, wasn't it?
Right. The ref's name. It was something out of WWE. I swear, the way the ref fell. You thought he was he was under Vince McMahon's control. It was
He just rolled forever, didn't he? Some say
What
he's
was the
still
referee's
rolling
name?
now.
Yeah.
It was Grizz's mate, wasn't it? I think Grizz goes around a few pizzas for him.
No, that's Uriah Rennie. Grizz is friends with Uriah Rennie. But no, what was the referee's name? David Ellery is in your head, but it's not him. It's gonna kill me now. Someone's gonna have to Google that now.
I was to say it was such a laughable moment, though, wasn't it?
It was awesome.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was, but the funny. Listen, I'll tell you what about that, Keith. The funny thing about that was, right, he pushed him over. But the funniest thing about it was when Nigel Winterburn ran towards Paolo Di Canio to have a go at him, and Paolo Di Canio lifted his arm as if he was going to give him a slap in the mouth, and Nigel Winterburn nearly crawled up into the fetal position.
But
that was actually funnier.
Does anyone actually remember what he got the red card for?
No.
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah,
because it wasn't for that. Because he shoved him over for giving him a red card.
Yeah. It's just one of those moments that gets bypassed.
What was the referee's name? Surely somebody's on their
Paul,
phone.
was it Paul Alcock? I think it was.
Oh, yeah,
Paul Alcock. Yeah,
that's him. Yeah, but no, if
his
anybody's
entire career, and that's all he's remembered for is getting shoved in his ass by Paolo Di Canio.
If anybody is watching it back, let it run for when he's walking to the sideline and watch. Just wait for Nigel Winterburn to turn up and go from hard man to victim without being touched in about 4 seconds. Jonathan, have you got a red card or an own goal?
I do. My red card is a double red card. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a football pitch. Newcastle. 2005. Bear in mind, Newcastle were an absolute soap opera at the time. Souness was manager. Shearer was on. He spent more time on Match of the Day than he was playing. Shearer comes back. There's a big announcement, big hurry. Everything's going to calm down. Shearer's back, and they're playing Aston Villa, and it's one of those moments where you just have to stop. You know the way you're watching the play and you hear some commotion in the background, and it's Lee Bowyer with the angriest face I've ever seen in my life, and just absolutely ripping socks into Kieran Dyer. Two boys squared up to each other. Dyer gets his top ripped down. It's like a woman's beach top. It's down to his belly button almost. And the ref comes over then, and goes over to Kieran Dyer, gives him a red card. Shearer at this point is trying to knock some sense into Bowyer. He's still going at giving it socks. And Bowyer with the rip shirt, referee comes over, gives him another red card. So it's 2 red cards. And then for some reason, Shearer decides to give the ref socks and start blinding the ref out of it. Then the next day, they get dragged into one of the most awkward press conferences I've ever seen in my life. The two boys.
Oh yeah. They had to shake hands outside the training ground.
Yeah, that was a couple of days later. There's a photo going around then of the two of them, and they're looking sideways. Oh, if looks could kill. It just summed up the farce that was Newcastle at the time. But what a moment!
Yeah, that was a cracker. That was an absolute cracker. And we tried to sign Lee Bowyer.
Jesus Christ! Yeah.
You know, I never would have forgiven people for that. Phil, have you got a red card or an own goal for me?
Do you know what? I am going to go for 2, but I'm going to go for 2 red cards. One of them was in the Prem, and the other one is an amateur one. But I have to share it because it's the best thing I've ever seen ever. I'll give you the Prem one first. I wasn't very happy at the time. In fact, I was pretty fuming. But looking back on it, it makes me laugh every time. It's that Gerrard red card after 25 seconds of coming on the pitch against United when he just 2-footed Fellaini.
And then stood on Herrera.
And the reason I love that is because as a devout Liverpool fan, I pretty much wanted to stand on pretty much almost every United player ever. So the fact that he just came, it wasn't even like he started the game. He came off the bench, looked really calm and composed, and 25 seconds later, he snapped someone. I still find that funny. I think, in your career, if you're a big red and you hate United, you've got to put the boot in at some point. I think it might actually be in his contract. The other one, so the amateur one, right? Oh God, this story is insane. It still makes me laugh to this day. So there's a youth game, but it's only a friendly going on, and it was at the academy in Hungary. So all these kids are playing, and one of the parents says, "Oh, I hope he's not biased." And I said, "Who?" And they said, "Oh, the ref has his brother playing over there. He's number 11. I said, all right, well, I'll have to keep an eye on that, see if he it's because with the other teams, so I'm thinking, see if he starts giving them any favours or a few free kicks or pens here and there kind of thing. But instead, he sends his brother off a straight red card. Right. So I'm clapping my hands, going, "Good job, ref. Well done." And he sends his brother. I mean, his brother had done a stupid tackle, but if I'm honest, it was probably worth more of a yellow and a ticking off. It wasn't a straight red. But anyway, he sends him off, and this is in the second half of the game. And at the final whistle, the ref blows the whistle, and instantly, like Forrest Gump, just takes off running, and his brother's charging after him from behind, and they're just legging it across the pitch. And everyone's waiting to I've taught my lads, because they're only kids, they're about 11 at this age, 11, 12, and I'm saying, make sure you shake hands with the other team and with the ref and all this kind of stuff. They go to look for the ref, and he's pelting it across the car park, and his boots being followed by his brother, who's going to, I assume, kick his head in for sending him off. But I always I remember laughing to myself on the way home, and me and this other coach just sat there pretty much in silence. We were both tired after the day's coaching, and we're both kind of sat smiling to ourselves on the metro on the way back. And he goes, "What do you reckon happened to that dad when he got home with his brother?" And I just had this image of him absolutely pelting the crap out of his brother in his room for giving him a straight red card. So that's definitely my favourite red card. It still makes me. This day I will sit and think about it, and it'll make me smile.
He definitely wasn't biased anyway. When it comes to red cards, it was one I seen, which always gets me, and one I didn't see, but you'll know what I'm talking about now in a minute. The first one is Jamie Carragher at Highbury. When the coin comes out of the crowd, and he picks it up and fucks it back at them and tells the ref that they threw it first. That's a belter. The other one that always gets me, and it pops up on my Facebook feed every so often, is when Chris Kamara is commentating, or he's, the way they do this thing where they're at the ground. He's at Fratton Park for a Portsmouth game. I don't know who they're playing, and he starts telling Jeff Stelling,
Yeah, I love this story.
He starts telling Jeff Stelling what's going on in the game, and Jeff Stelling turns to him and there's been a player sent off at the game of Fratton Park, and it goes back to Chris Kamara, and he says, and his response is, "Has there, Jeff?" And he goes, "Oh." And I remember, I'm nearly sure it was Anthony Van Den Boer was the player that was sent off. Right? And the name always stuck in my head, Anthony Van Den Boer, because he was brilliant on Championship Manager, and he was a snip. And Keith, you like that one. He was a snip on Championship Manager. He was at the half, but and Chris Kamara's reaction was, "Yeah, I seen him going off the pitch, but I just thought he was injured, and I just thought, Jesus Christ, I haven't even seen that red card, and it's a thing of beauty." But no, just them two popped straight into my head when I was thinking about that. But any own goals, lads? Just to finish up, is there any own goals that just come on, fill your hands up?
Yeah, do you know what? I've got one. The one that still makes me laugh to this day was against Fulham. I think it was 2014, and it was Colo Torre. He stood in the centre of the box. The ball comes near. It's a really simple kick, just to kick it out. It hits the side of his foot and rolls into the goal. And his face is just he genuinely has no idea how he's just done that. In fact, I don't think he could replicate it again if you gave him 10 other chances. It was a cracking finish. It was just in the wrong end. But that still makes me laugh, that one.
Wasn't he looking at the ref as if it was his fault then?
He just seemed really annoyed.
Yeah,
he seemed really shocked that something had happened, like somebody had just violated him, and he had absolutely no. I was half expecting him to look down and start picking a fight with his feet, because he genuinely seemed really annoyed that somebody had aggrieved him, but it was clearly his fault.
Yeah, I seen one the other day, like that. You know the way they come up on your Facebook feeds. All this stuff seems to come up on mine. I seen two the other day. There was one where a fella tried a bicycle kick in his own box and managed to send it across his own keeper into the far corner, and it was amazing. And if I find it, I'll get it for you. And there was another one where a ball comes in the box. It's an English league game. Ball comes in the box. A guy goes to hook the ball over his own head, hits himself in the face for it, and it goes back across the goalkeeper into the goal. They were two.
One, isn't it?
Yeah, but my favourite one is Lee Dixon. Lee Dixon playing at Highbury for Arsenal. I'd say you're probably looking very early 90s. He has the ball. He's on his own. He's 35 yards from his own goal. He's looking up the pitch. and he's looking and looking and looking, and he decides he's no options, and he decides to pass it back to David Seaman. And instead of passing it back to David Seaman, he lobs David Seaman from 45 yards. Well, it's a peach. It's in the top corner. Like it's have a look. If you type Lee Dixon own goal, you'll probably find it. But that's my one. Jonathan, have you any own goals for me?
Yeah, I've won. It's a bit of a debate who actually scored it, but it was the Villa Birmingham game back a good few years now.
Yeah. I know what you're going with this.
Villa have a throw on their about 20 yards from their own goal. Melberg just tosses the ball back to the keeper, Eckelman. And Eckelman goes just a simple routine, just goes to put it up the pitch, completely misses the ball, and it just rolls into the empty net. And
it's Enkelman's free kick because you can't score, or it's Enkelman's own goal. You can't score an own goal with a throw in.
So the claim is that he got a flick on it.
He goes to trap the ball, and it runs under his studs and goes in the corner. Yeah. And I always remember that one where doesn't the Birmingham fan come on and just starts dancing in his face?
Yeah, exactly.
After, but yeah, that's a cracker. Yeah, Keith, last word on this one. Have you any own goals for me before we go?
Just one that kind of pops to mind. It made me laugh and cry at the same time. Was Jimmy Traore's own goal against Burnley in the.
It was so good. It even got his own chant. He can't just control his feet.
That just summed him and just everything that was going on at the time
with his Liverpool career.
Yeah, it was. You just laughed. I was sitting with an Arsenal man. He was creasing. I was too. We just sat there. We just laughed. So yeah, that's one that comes to mind.
Do you remember the season that Martin Skirtle decided to just score as many goals as he could for own goals?
In whatever net he could find.
Yeah, but he just went nuts. I think he finished the season with like 4 or 5 own goals.
Speaking of own goals, our very own Richard Dunn was the master of that.
Jesus, yeah, Richard Dunn had a serious amount of own goals. He literally, once he's seen it, no matter what box he was in, he should have been a striker.
If he saw the net, he just put it in.
Yeah, he just stuck it in. He didn't care what end of the pitch he was in. But lads, look, we leave it there. It's been a mad one actually tonight. It's been all sorts of stuff going on. But look, before I go, I just want to let everyone know that you can obviously follow us on Twitter. We're on Facebook. ARW now is our YouTube channel. You get great content on there. You'll actually find our first live podcast that we done about 24 hours ago. But it's up there. It's really good. It's myself, Jonathan and Craig discussing transfers and how things are going for the summer. Give it a look. Give it a like, subscribe. You can follow all our content on that. And look, I'd like to thank Phil. I'd like to thank Jonathan. And I'd like to thank Keith. This has been ARW Weekly. I've been Gav. Up the Reds.